And boom, we're live. And welcome to another edition of Life is People. And tonight I'm really excited to have Jermaine Patterson on from Patterson Creations. Now, I came across this connection through Joshua, and people can go back and watch our previous episodes and our previous conversations. So, well, before we go any further, how you doing tonight, my brother?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Thank you for having me on.
No, I think before the sort of really good place to sort of start, and I know there's sort of like a whole background and stuff to where you are, but just give people a brief overview and a brief sort of synopsis of what Patterson Creations is and how you sort of came to start it and what it kind of really and really what it stands for.
Okay, Patterson Creation started 4 years ago. I had went to the community development office in Attleboro, applied for a loan. I put the loan against my house to secure that loan. So I got $210,000 to build a multifaceted art gallery and event venue. So it's a art gallery. We do custom picture framing. We do events. We pretty much cater to anyone in the community that's doing fundraisers and things that's going to pretty much give back to the community. So it's a a good thing. We also have the ability to do recordings. We have a little recording studio also inside of the space. So again, it makes it for a multifaceted place where anything that has to do with art or fundraising or the community you can do inside of Patterson Creation.
Well, man, what I find really inspiring about what you do is and I think you sort of, I want to linger on it really before we go any further. You sort of mentioned at the very beginning of that answer to me, which you said you put up a lot of money to do this. Now that's very inspiring, man. I mean, without sort of going into too much depth, I mean that must have been a few conversations with your better half about that one, man. So so this has obviously been a very big drive inside you for a while, and I know you've had some history with art. So obviously art's been something with you for a long time, and obviously a very big deep passion to put that amount of money up and actually sort of step through this project, which a lot of people wouldn't do. A lot of people are talkers, but you've actually put the money up and taken that risk. So it's obviously a very big drive for you. So I mean, you mentioned about you did put that money up. Was that a straightforward proposition, or did that cost? I mean, was that a lot of strife and going through paperwork? And because that's what I'm saying, there's not many people who would actually go home to their better half and say, "Oh, by the way, we're going to put our house up to go and start my passion." So,
So in this whole process, for me, just like any other business owner, I didn't have any money. I had my regular 40-hour job. I was a police officer for the past 16 years total. Back then it was obviously take away 4 years. So I'm in the height of my career. I had bought a house within that same year. It was a two-family residence. So it made it a little easier because I didn't have a better half. So it was really just my decision. So it made it a little easier with that compromise. I do have a stepdaughter from a previous relationship. So again, it made it easier with those conversations because it wasn't like I'm taking care of a young child. I got a car note and I'm married. You know what I mean? So I'm a single male, and it was just me moving forward with my dreams. So it was a lot of paperwork, a lot of paperwork. I think the paperwork was designed back in the day to, kind of wean off people. So if the wrong person was trying to apply, it kind of scares you away, and then it's kind of left for the people that's actually serious. So I didn't know anything about the paperwork. So what I had to do was ask a lot of questions. So anything I didn't know in any field of not trade I was trying to, bring to the business, I would ask 5 to 10 people on anything. If it had to do with electrical or plumbing or the paperwork, I would go to 5 to 10 people and ask them the same questions. And then when I would get kind of like the similar answer, then most likely that was right. And I only had to go off of that because I didn't have anyone in business to kind of mentor me and take me under their wing. So I had to, do a lot of risk taking. So the first risk was putting my house up on the line while I'm already risking my life at my regular full-time job as a police officer. So for me, that was an easier risk versus going to work every day. So again, in that process, the paperwork was a lot. The decision to actually make that jump and actually go into what I actually wanted to do. I wanted to be an art teacher and not a police officer. But I got into law enforcement at 21 and say, you know what, I can help people through law enforcement. And that's how I kind of made the switch. So then I said, you know, after putting those years in, I said, how do I get back into art? So I said I can be an artist and then have that same stigma called a starving artist. So I can actually go into business, learn about art, and advocate for other artists by putting a business in place that caters to every area of art to teach people about the business of art.
Well, I think the business of art is something that as an artist, you know, and many creators I've met, general creators, it's something that it's Achilles heel to many artists, and that's the you know, artists, creators, bands, and musicians, and that's why we got a history of full of blues musicians who died starving guys. But that's why we got artists who, you know, and it's wrong. And I think it's really essential to me, and I think I'm really inspired by what you're doing, because we need to forge this and break down these barriers, so the creative people, the energy that's needed for the world that's going to, you know, hopefully come, you know, we're going to sort of see force, you know, break out in front of us, that we need the creative people. And I think it's really good. Now, one of the things that, before we sort of divert too much, before, you know, about the Patterson space creations, from what I've seen about it, and I've looked at it, and, you know, Google Maps and stuff, which people can do. Now, I'm fascinated. Why did you choose the building? And it's something you mentioned in your previous answer about the you know, the paperwork and stuff. Now, one of the things I think you kind of skipped over was it. From what I understand, you had to sort of, it was a kind of gutted building. It's an old building. You had to go in and strip the thing, and you've had to redesign it. So there was a lot of work and effort put into. What made you choose the actual space that you did?
It's funny how the space was chosen. I actually was in the space around the corner from the current location. Um, I had the you know, the plans all set. The building was being built out, and there was a water issue in the other space. So I went to my lawyer to, you know, have that conversation. He said, "Hey, you might want to take a look next door," which was next door to his law office in the same building. I went next door and said, "I'm all set." It was a complete disaster. It was 5 other businesses since the 1920s, and everything in that business was actually still left in that space. It was a liquor store, it was a paint store, it was a sewing place, it was a thrift shop, it was a police supply store. Everyone left everything in there. So when I finally agreed to the space and signed the lease, it took me 3 30-yard dumpsters to gut everything out. And I mean, you know, 3 30-yard dumpsters, and a bunch of buddies, you know, friends, you know, volunteers. We didn't go and get a construction crew. I just, again, went to every tradesman and said, "Hey, I need someone to disconnect these wires. Hey, I need someone to cut these old pipes out. Hey, I need someone to take out the wood. Hey, I need someone to take out the sheetrock." And it took 2 months to gut the place, and we saved about $20,000 to $30,000 by doing it ourselves. So again, I had a tight budget, so I did a lot of the work myself, and then when I got it prepped for the tradesmen, then I had let them come in. But again, my main thing in picking the space was it was big enough. So it's 3,000 square feet, and it's centrally located right in the center of Attleboro, Massachusetts. So I'm literally 75 steps from the commuter rail. So that commuter rail runs from Providence, Rhode Island, all the way to Boston, Massachusetts. So we're right there in that central business district.
That's perfect, because you know, from talking from my experience, and, you know, I've kind of been you know, working artist in cities before, and, you know, and I'm love to sort of have this conversation with you. I mean, one of the things over here, and I can only speak about what it's like in this part of the world, but even to rent a studio space as an artist was so expensive. I mean, you're talking maybe £600 sterling, so that's like, you know, $900 a month, and you're getting some pokey little place in an industrial state that's 5 miles outside the city centre, and, you know, and then you, as you would know, you enter the whole. It's this whole game of trying to get yourself into galleries, how much galleries charge you to put it into the whole, then they want their cuts, and before you know it, you're like, well, wait a minute, I'm coming out with maybe 5% of what I've actually did, and I've done all the effort, been charged, and all these barriers put in my way. So what I find really inspiring about what you've just mentioned is that not only are you have you found a really big space, which is absolutely great, because I think the idea of putting loads of arts together is one thing which I want to discuss with you. But I think secondly as well is, and I'm fascinated to know and you can talk upon this, is your whole approach to how you've done this. You, like you said, you've got a very big space. You recognise, as you've spoken eruditely upon, about the difficulties as artists and what we have, the barriers between us, and you have a very novel approach to it. So you're not saying to the artist, oh, okay, you're going to have to pay me to show in your gallery. You're not saying, okay, I'm going to take 60% out. I mean, you can talk about that more as well. But what I really ties in with is you just mentioned then you have somewhere that's actually in the center of the city, and that is so, to me, very inspiring, because like I say, when it happens over here, it happens out the way and it's kind of like pushed to the edges. So I think it's really great that you've got it in the center of the city. So I mean, before again, please, I'd love to hear you speak upon your approach to how you deal with artists and the creators, and equally, just before we, on that very subject, how are you finding the footfall? Do you find that people walk into your space, or is it difficult to get people who are on their 9 to 5, hamster wheels, to sort of spend half an hour and look at some artwork and hear some musicians? I mean, how are you finding getting people into the actual space?
So the the biggest thing for me was to have a multi-faceted approach. Meaning, if I just did art gallery shows, then normally only people that come out for those art gallery shows is the artist's friends and maybe a few family members. And then you just have a small little event, and then nothing really sells, because like you said, in most art galleries, they're trying to take 50 to 60%. They're actually charging you to actually use your wall space, and then they actually may not be in a good location. So for me, I don't charge anyone to actually hang their work, and then when we do make a sale, we only take 35%. So again, my thing is I want to teach the artists how to be a business owner, because all artists are really entrepreneurs in advocating for their own art. So they're actually a business owner. So every artist is really a small business owner. So my job is to educate people on the business end of art. So in the process, if I have an art gallery show, I went out and petitioned the city to actually get a full liquor license. So now, instead of just doing little wine tastings, we can do a full out event. So we can have someone displaying art, someone playing live music. We can have the event catered. We can have a full bar, and then we have other little educational booths where other businesses rent my space and have their businesses inside of my business. So whether you're selling, T-shirts or jewelry or CDs or whatever your craft or business is, and it doesn't have to be art. It can be business. You can have a booth set up for men's health. You can have a booth set up about education on pollution. It's about art and business. So both of those together, that's why I have it as Patterson Creations. It's not about my creations, it's about Patterson, no apostrophe s, in creations. So you can have a conversation about the things that I'm doing, and have a conversation about people's creations. So it's Patterson and then creations together. You're talking about, again, a community person that worked in the community for years as a police officer, obviously in the community, hearing people's problems. So I said, I keep hearing these different problems from everyone. How do I offer a solution? So just like as a police officer, I said, I'll dive in head first and I'll be the spearhead. Same thing in business, in art. I said, I'll open up a business myself. Instead of me just giving a resource, I said, I'll make the sacrifice, make the jump, and then eventually things will start to roll and move forward. And it's been great so far.
Well, I mean, I speak as an artist over here, and I think as I mentioned, I think what is very inspiring about you is it's been done from an artist perspective. Because again, it's one of the things I want to speak upon, that and I can only speak about my experiences, being an artist particularly in England, is that you have all these people, and for want of a better word, these good doers, do-gooders, and they want to come in, and they tend to be these for want of a better word, these hippy dippy types who have these very kind of like, oh well, man, and and it's all these, and before you know it, it's ultimately they come up with all these great plans. And when it comes to, if you ever do get a gallery show, it tends to be the same people. It's the same suits that would have gone to the other one. So it's kind of like all this time I've just been wasted. And it's one of the things that really frustrated me with the whole art scene, particularly over here. And I want to know where your reflections in America, but it was all kind of like you had to join, and then suddenly you were part of this community. And before you know it, it's almost like this creeping communism where you're kind of like, wait, I'm now doing about 10 jobs. All I want to do is paint and create. And I think it's really, your approach to it is really great and very inspiring to know that it's coming from somebody who's not only an artist, but you're basically saying, right, I'm going to strip away, from what my understanding, you're stripping away all the things that, like you said, that put the average person off going into a space and looking at art, which is usually there are all these barriers about, I don't understand artwork, or it's not my scene, or it's just a very exclusive elite kind of thing. And I love your approaches to that, and that is how, what you know, particularly when you put the music and like you said, the liquor license and people with t-shirts and many creative people in one space, which must, I think as well, not only from an outside perspective, must be very intriguing for someone walking past, but speaking as a creative person, it must be such a great energy that comes out of that, all the way you can collaborate and stuff like that. It must be so inspiring to so many people around your area. I mean, how's the take up been from, like I said, from both the footfall, and how's the take up been from the local artists around you?
It's a good. I mean, again, people are still thrown off by it because they haven't seen anything the way I've done it. So again, when you bring all these different factors into play, people kind of like, whoa, what's going on over there? So is it a art gallery, or is it a event venue, or is it a nightclub? Is it a place where you get frames from? And it's anything you want it to be. So that's the biggest thing. So when people come in with their ideas, I don't want to ever be able to say to anyone, oh, we don't have that, oh, we can't do that, or we don't have that many outlets, or the building isn't built for that. I put all of the money into the building so that way I can cater to anyone's trade, anyone's creation, anyone's talent, anyone's platform. So that way it can be an open forum for anyone and anything. So in that process, when people come in with their ideas, imagine someone said, hey, if you have an idea and if you didn't have any limits, what would you do? People would rattle off, oh, I would do this, I would do that, I would do this, and I would do that. Then I say, let's do that then. So now that empowers people to feel confident about themselves in their artwork. Then it creates a true value of their artwork. Most artists tend not to really sell because they're trying to mark their piece up to cover the price of the picture frame, which is expensive. That's why we also do picture frame, to cover the rental fee of hanging your artwork on the wall, to cover the fact that it's been sitting there in that gallery for 6 months, to cover the fact that the gallery is going to take 50 to 60%. So a piece that could have been $300, they're trying to sell it for $1,100 and don't make the sale. Then when they don't make the sale, they feel disempowered, and it takes away from the artwork, and it takes away from the creative, the creative mind. It takes away from the creative process. So to be able to give that back to people, to be able to give that back to the business owner, to be able to give that back to the artist, where I can now go out and create art and display it in a place where the person is going to be educated about my artwork, be educated about business, and have those conversations with people that's looking at my work, advocating for me, because the artist isn't always here. So I have to understand the artist, their work, and what actually mind frame they were in, because when people look at art, they obviously see different things. So I gotta be able to capture that, advocate for that. The same thing I was doing in law enforcement. If I go and advocate for a victim or advocate for someone that's having a conversation, then I need to know both sides of it. So in this case, to be able to advocate for artists, to understand where they're coming from and where they're at now. So again, to be able to get rid of that stigma called a starving artist, it's almost like a victim mindset. So to be able to re-educate people in regards to business and being empowered. So I can only do that by being, the person that's gonna make the sacrifice. So I made the sacrifice by taking a loan out and going into business and creating a space that was going to be there for everyone. But the biggest sacrifice I made was in March of this year when I retired early from my police career so I can be in the space to advocate 24 hours a day. So that way there's no ifs, ands, or buts about, oh, I wish I can go there during the daytime hours, because I was working days from 7:30 to a 4:30. Then I had a 30-minute window to get to PC for 5, and then I worked that from 5 to 1 of not 2 a.m. and then stay after and do paperwork and do it all over again. So I did that for actually 3 years straight. I said, listen, I'm going to make another plane jump and give up my retirement and my position to be in PC, so that way I can be there and be that person, be that vessel for those artists and business owners.
Well, I mean, there's two things I want to speak upon. I think one of the very I'm so glad that you spoke upon this, because I'm so glad to someone from your perspective speak upon this, because one of the white elephants in the room for artists is that, and what you've just spoken on, it's so true, that they overvalue their pieces of work. They usually go to gallery owners who say, oh, and they inflate even more because they start to see the pound or the dollar signs rolling around their eyes. They think, oh, I can double this price and make my little cut. And what happens is you say, I know so many artists, and you just their spaces is just full of artworks. And I say to them, if you want to be real, about this and not just live in this bubble of being an artist, you've got to go, look, you're either in it to get rid, or you're just a collector. And if you're not, and that's the point, it should just be always at the door. It's like, in some ways, like you said, it's the business, it's taking that business mentality, which is inherently to many artists, we don't even like the word business or money, because we think, oh, it's the nasty, it's the man, we don't want to be part of that. But it's true, you've got to be like a shop, like anything, you've got to be getting rid of your products. And if you're not getting rid of your products, think, okay, what is it about that? Do I strive, and do I try to get better at what I'm doing, or do I hit and think, okay, that's not done, and I try another avenue? But these are the conversations that you're never going to get. I've never had any art gallery or any person I've ever been involved in the arts tell me this. Even when I was at uni, nobody sat me down and had this conversation. It was all like, oh, well, you go and express yourself, and in one day your moment will happen. And it's like, no, life ain't like that, man. Life is the strife, and this is what I find really inspiring about what you're doing, because man, I know if I come to your place and I'm going to talk to you, I ain't going to get that flowery kissing my ass kind of speech. I'm going to get a real conversation from a guy who's, like you said, who's seen the real side of life. And that, to me, is essential. What we need more people. We need more Jermaine Pattersons, man. We need more and more of them. And I hope you're the start of people that lead almost like a vanguard of people that you're inspired to do what you're doing, not only in America but all over the world, because I think it's essential. Because I mean, I've always said this, when you boil this right down to the reason why it's essential, and I think it speaks upon what you would know more. All the time we've got people being creative and doing this, then rather than out on the streets killing each other with weapons and guns and putting, that's, to me, is a win. And that's what it all boils down to. All the rest of it, when it boils down to two things: we've got to go out and reward humans that go out and kill people, or we find a way to stop that. And arts is a great way to stop that. So I think you're really inspiring me, because you're not that usual person, and I think we need more and more of you. And I really do hope this is going to be a start of a worldwide sort of trend. With that in mind, I'm fascinated. What are your thoughts on how this is all going to go in the next sort of 5 or 6 years, with the increase in technology, gallery spaces, and the idea that virtual worlds are going to be entered? I mean, how do you think this is all going to sort of, if we talked in 5 years' time, how how do you think you'll develop the Patterson's Creations? And have you thought about that sort of how you're going to do it? Because there's all sorts of, I mean, one of the things I would love to maybe have a conference and then maybe have a conversation with you, maybe at your place, would be how to get the artist in understanding this whole new paradigm that's opening with, digital currencies and no more middlemen, and be able to sell your works all over the world. And that's what I'm saying. I think we're in the greatest times in the world to be an artist. And I think what the era that's rising is going to be the era of the creative, because it's all that we've got. I mean, machines can do a lot of things, but we've got that edge is creativity. So I'm fascinated. How is that something is it brought up in your space? To do artists bring this up? Are they aware of it? And just the general thoughts about it, and your own thoughts about it. I mean, how do you sort of plans to expand with the rise of technology and the obvious more connections and the ability to spread your word and connect and collaborate with people all over the world.
Well, I'm actually glad you had brought that up, Tim. So for me, when I was building a space out, I would literally take a chair and sit in every 6 feet of space of my space and said, if I was an artist or a business owner, what would I need in this space? Then the next 6 feet, then the next 6 feet, throughout the whole 3,000 square feet of space. So before the walls were actually closed, I put Cat 5 wiring in the wall where I can put TVs anywhere and or not video audio anywhere in the space. So again, if that artist or that business owner needed that, it's there. But my other view on it was it's kind of like what you said. We're kind of going into that digital and technology world. So a lot of people buy art online. So I made a virtual art gallery where if you come into the space, I can put up a TV, a flat screen TV, frame it like a picture so it keeps that look, and put high def pictures that will be on a slideshow or if not a stagnant view. And then you can talk to the artist kind of like I'm talking to you at the end of that gallery space. So if I wanted to look at screen 7 that's framed and is one of your pieces, I can have a conversation with you about what what type of mindset you were in, what you were feeling when you actually painted that. If the person wants it, you can either send it to me and I'll frame it for them, or you can send it to them and they can bring it to me to be framed. Or again, you guys can be the middleman without me. I'm just the vessel where I'm gonna again have a classy space and have that technology on the wall where this person can now not have to worry about a picture frame and not have to worry about mass producing their piece where trying to get G-clays of their piece to sell when they can just say, listen, I don't have any money, but I want to display my work in your art gallery and actually talk to the artist that isn't here. So the artist, again, if you're a businessman and you're in another country, you can log in, you'll have your own screen, and then your work will be on the other 7 screens already framed in my space. So for the people that's actually there can actually view it, or the people that's actually logging in can view the work in the gallery while other people are actually viewing the work. You have the conversation again. If you guys want to make that deal separately, so be it. If you want to again add me into it by adding a frame to it, then I can also do that also. So again, it's very, very important that the business owner, the artist, to understand that we are going into that direction. We got to have some other ways of being able to stay on board. If not, we fall back into the realm of a starving artist because we're not keeping up with the time. We're not keeping up with the time because we're actually stuck on the emotional portion of it versus the irrational view of it as a business owner. So when business starts to change as a business owner, you have to start making changes. You don't have to change your whole model, but you got to be able to stay the with the times. So if I was using an old cash register and everyone else has a POS machine, a point of sale, and they're taking credit cards and I can do multiple sales at once, then as a business owner, I might want to upgrade my cash register to a point of sale. Same thing in art. If people are selling art online, it's not going to take away from your art. It's going to enhance your art just like a picture frame. The picture frame is supposed to preserve and enhance a piece of art. And the same thing with technology. That technology is going to, preserve it and enhance it. So we had that already built in Patterson Creation. I put that in the space 4 years ago when I had, gutted the building and started to do the build out. So it's very important for the artists and business owners to understand business and where it's going, and it makes it easier when we all come together and have these conversations that we're having now. So that way is no ifs, ands, or buts. If I have a question or a concern or I was thinking about something and other like-minded people are having the same conversation, it makes it easier to come up with definite solutions, not maybe if or one day hopefully or I wish I had the money for that. No, we all put our minds together and come up with solutions in the now. I live right now, then the next now, then the next now. I'm not living in the past. I don't know what the future holds. All I know is right now. So right now, this is available to us right now. So the ultimate goal is to be able to get a Patterson Creation patent where I can now have multiple stores and maybe even have one over there where you're at.
you know, I think we're at the beginnings of a very, as I said, we're entering a, we're living in an era of information, and we're about to enter the era of a creative. And one of the things that's going to definitely break down is going to be the middlemen, and the idea that, you know, which one of the things that, and maybe people who aren't in this whole, what we, you know, don't understand this, you know, in the arts world, I think there's so many middlemen. There's so many, and I know, to me, I'm know there's so many great creative people out there who aren't given the chances, who are, for whatever reasons, for poverty, for not seen, for the wrong neighbourhood, for, there's a multitude of reasons why they're not seen. And what we're going to see with the new decentralized of the internet and stuff, and these barriers are going to dissolve and dissolve and dissolve and dissolve. And I think it's very, very inspiring. And I think it's going to be, like you said, I think the difficult thing for us as creative people is we generally tend to be outsiders. Like you said, we tend to be the ones that, you know, and it's networking is key, because in the future, as much as all the technology happens, and this is one of the, you know, the human to human networking is essential. And that's why, I mean, it's like, you know, and I think again what you said as well, it's not only networking, but it's one of the things that we the creative, and the, you know, as you would know, it's one of our things, bit of pills we have to really swallow, is getting from the point where we just sit and talk and we do. And I think you're absolutely right, and that's what I love about what you're doing with Patterson Creations. It's what inspires me to do what I do with N99, because I think there's this way of, it's not only just sitting around and talking, it's about building stuff. Because as you quite rightly said, you know, we've only got this moment, to do things. And I've got to the point in my life, and I've been surrounded by some. I'm not sure you're the same. There's plenty of, this world is full of people who want to talk about things, dream up concepts, but doing things is a different thing. And that's what I really love about what you're doing, because what you have right now, a solid building. I can go there and I can do this, and people can reach out, and from this conversation can reach out to you. And this is only going to be enhanced and enhanced and enhanced. But like I said, I think the key element, as you said, is the to move beyond the talking to building to doing, which is why it needs people like yourselves to go out there and be the first people that fly the flag, because people, you know, intrinsically follow people, and if they see people like you inspire them. That happens. And you know, I can definitely see a Patterson's Creations going worldwide, man. I think this is, I think it's the thing that you're working on, and these new networks, that is basically, to me, the way of the future. And all the current ways and means, which is all centralized, and these middlemen and stuff, that's old school. And that world is breaking down, and it's going to be what inspires me is that the artists and the creators who understand this and become the early adopters, we're going to have the ability to shape the new world, just like hip hop did, man. I always go back to music. Hip hop started in the barriers of New York, and it moved out and it shaped a whole generation. Before you know, you had white guys walking around in England who've just given it all the yo, and that's what I'm saying. But you don't get that done if you don't build stuff. And this is one of the things that I think's been forgotten in the world we live in, especially amongst the creators, because we live in this world where, oh, you haven't got to put any effort in. You just have your moment will happen, and this has been drummed into us over and over and over again. You know, X Factor and all these. You can have your moment. You can have your moment, and it's not. It's about putting the effort in and actually doing some time in it. And this is what's essential, because if not, I just don't want to be around. Like, you know, you mentioned your daughter. I don't want your daughter to be around in 20, 30 years time going, actually, what's changed? What happened? You had the chance and you just blew it, and it's now gone to Google. And this is where I think we need to step up. And I think it's really, I think the time has gone beyond where we can just sit and have, for want of a better word, polite parlor conversations where we discuss the fucking relevance. And no, we've got to get up and do things, because, man, we're at a very, I'm sure you know, I mean, you're an American man, we're at a crossroads of humanity, and it's down to individuals, not just turning and say, what can someone else do? What can I do? It's about turning around, what can I do? And that's the only thing you can do. You can't change anything else, but you can change the operating system inside your head. And that's what I'm inspired by, what you're doing. And I always fly the flag for it. And that's because I think we just need to have more people like yourself being, and so people can be inspired to go, do you know what, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. And that is essential, because you're giving a positive message. Now, my question to you is, we've discussed all this. Why? Why? I mean, that's a very basic question. Why, Jermaine? Well, why not just sit around, sit around just doing and think, oh, bugger it, I'm just going to travel America, or I'm going to sit in Las Vegas. Why? What gets you up in the morning? What's the drive behind all this to do all the things you just mentioned, and not just sit around and watch TV and scratch your ass all the rest of your life?
For me, being a poor kid from Philadelphia, at one point, me and my two brothers and mother was homeless in Philadelphia. And then we lived in the housing projects. Then we lived with other people. So we had dealt with that struggle. And I've had my art talent since first grade. The best macaroni face in class, the best hand painting, the best all the way up until now. So when I moved here to Attleboro at 15, I said, why can't I be exactly what I want to be? So I wanted to be in art and eventually in law enforcement. I was able to have, by the grace of God, to be to have that ability to get into both of those fields. So in that process, and coming from that type of background, I said, well, if I can do it and explain it to someone else that can actually receive it, then I win. So if I can educate someone else on how to be a better artist, or be a better person, or be a better business owner, or be a better, stepfather, or be a better whatever they are, then it's a win-win. So I said, how do I again give direct solutions? And for me, it was always being the person that actually did it first. So if I can do it first and then re-educate someone in it, so it just made it easier. So I said, okay, I can do it. I'll go out and ask the 20 people and figure out all the questions, cut off all the fat, and then give it pure right to the person that actually wants it. So again, if the person wants it, it's there for them. God put people in place to help everyone. If you don't believe in God, there are resources in places to help everyone. So no matter which way you look at it, whether you're an atheist or whether you're a believer, there's still resources there either way. All right. So again, the, the funniest story, I hope I heard this old story. A guy was on a log in the middle of the ocean, and he prayed to God for help. He says, I'm going to keep praying to God until God come down and help me. A cruise ship came by and said, hey, God, y'all sit down. He says, I'm all set. I'm waiting on the Lord. So they left. Guy in a rowboat came by. Hey, God, y'all set? No, I'm all set. I'm waiting on the Lord. Helicopter came by and threw down a ladder and said, hey, guy, y'all set? You need help? I'm all set. I'm waiting on the Lord. The guy drowns. Gets to heaven and says, Lord, why did you forsake me? He says, listen, I sent you a cruise ship. I sent you a rowboat. And I sent you a helicopter. All right. So again, people need to recognize the resources and the people that already did what they're trying to do. All the time, it doesn't mean it has to be you to get to it doesn't have to be you for you to get it doesn't have to be you for you to get where you need to go all the time. Meaning, if I, need something in business and my buddy went to a 4-year business school, I don't need to go to the 4-year business school. I can just ask him. I don't need to go learn plumbing to do the plumbing at PC. I'll go ask a plumber. I don't need to frame my own work. I can go to a picture framer. If I don't know about certain paint colors or not the way colors mix, I can experiment. It's part of the creative process. Or I can just Google it or go and ask another artist. So that way I stay in line with what my goal is, and I'm not wasting time going off track. So a lot of time people feel as though that they need to do it themselves 110%. And you don't have to. You just have to build a good network and again be able to talk to other people and build those relationships. Life is about relationships. If you don't build the relationships, then the business isn't going to work. Being an artist is going to be harder because you don't have the proper relationship with the local galleries, or having those resources with the city or town hall, or having a good relationship with a loan bank, or having a good relationship with a bunch of people that's going to volunteer for you and help you demo your place or help paint walls or whatever the situation may be. So again, in the process of all of this, people got to get over that first fear, which is people despise human contact, human conversation. People would rather die than have a conversation. People would rather die than talk to you. overseas. Oh man, I don't want to be on a podcast, and what if someone sees it? It's like, are you serious? You got to be able to say, I'm not just doing this for me, but I'm doing this for everyone else too. So if I can do it, someone else can do it. So in all these different areas, you know, we're training and developing ourselves to have those relationships, to have those conversations, to be able to seek out your resources. It's all there. So again, the resources are there. People just don't identify with them, and they miss out. And then they say after the fact, "Well, how come you didn't help me with this? Or how come I didn't know about that?" But it's been right there, and it may have been right there through me, or through you, or through someone else. So again, the process is good, but the whole purpose of the process, why you're creating art, why you're trying to be a better business owner, or not be a better artist. You're supposed to be enjoying the relationships and the conversation that you're having with people, because it's all about the relationships, and that's what it's about.
etc., etc., etc. Put us into boxes, and I agree with you. But one of the things that um, where we are as a species right now as human beings is that we you have to all understand, and I think you spoke upon it there, Jermaine. You were saying that we have just one short time, and it's one of the things that I think many people that this is why I think it's really easy. Not, I don't ever like to be judgmental because, as you know, there's people that dude, I mean, when you're living in, like you said, in the middle of a downtown barrio, and you've got no money and your whole survival, man, the last thing you're thinking about is, oh, I'm going to sit around and be an artist, because you think of all the myriad of problems that could that are in your way. And I think this is exactly right. You've got to break it down to go, right. You've got to step out and go back to that old thing of just being a human being, stepping out and relying on other people, building up networks. Because as you said, beyond everything, and then like you said, we've only just got this one moment, this one shot, this one thing to, and we it's what we do with it. And you were saying earlier on about I kind of tend to look at the other way around. I think it's all about fear, and we live around surrounded by fear, and yeah, it's easier for us all to put our heads down and go. But once you do that, you're amazed how much people go, oh, do you know what? I was thinking exactly the same thing, but I was afraid to do it. And this is one of the things, I mean, you spoke about, oh, why would I go and speak to anybody? Do you know, I think that goes back to all the things I mentioned earlier on with your daughter. Your daughter's going to be, the future will judge us. The future will come back to us and say, right, there you were in the early 2000s, there you were in mid, 2016, you had all this opportunity. What did you do with it, Dad? What did you do with it, Dad? And they will judge us, and that's how to me, I just, I think there's nothing other than we can do is step up. Not only because it's what the drive we've all got to do. It's essential we do it as human beings. But man, what we're going to do? We get this one little short time of life. This one man, this look at the experience we have. We're not we're such a whatever situation we've got the ability to be a human being and enjoy this wonderful experience of this rock that we're tumbling through. And all we do is we argue about barriers and walls and this and that, and it's like, really, we're just on this rock, and we like you said, we've got one experience, and it's such a such an unfortunate things that we, and I think and this is one of my reflections of just generally, I think you don't find this opinion when you go out to places like when I've been to South America or Africa. When you're living out in the nature and the wild, you don't have to sit out, come around the conversations. You get all the things we have in our world, because you live in the world, and you're more attached with everything else. When you've got a wolf that could wipe out your family, you don't sit around and go, oh well, no, someone called me fat on Twitter. You haven't got the time. And this is one of the things that they have. There's so much we can all learn from each other. And I think at the heart of it, what you do see around all of the humanity is, it's all about, like you said, that intrinsically getting on with each other and speaking to each other and having the power to speak up, and especially in the times we are right now. Because if we don't, what are we going to do? Sit around and regret when we're 60 and think, oh, what do we have? We had this opportunity and we just let it all go. And I think this is really like, like that analogy, it's a perfect analogy, about the the ocean with God coming back to it. It's exactly it. We've all got the one shot. And that's just one of the things that it's breaking those, which is what I love what you're doing. It's breaking the ways to find people who aren't just naturally people who can just go, okay, I've got the privilege to be an artist, but it's finding the creativity, like you said, it's finding that Jermaine who was 10, 15 years old at school, or 12-year-old, and picking him out and saying, look, great, you can go down and do whatever you want to do, but there's an option. You can follow that passion, and that to me is so inspiring, because every little Jermaine we can pull out, every little Tim we can pull out at 12 years old and stop them going down that route, it to me is a victory that is essential for us as a species of humanity, because if not, we're just going to ravage ourselves apart.
Tim, it's funny. Number one, I want to thank you for reaching out to me. Again, talk to my other business partner, Joshua Silver. He has a t-shirt business that's inside of my business. And again, this guy is a workhorse. He knows his business, and he's also in the trash business. So he has a business called Fresh Start Removal. So for him to be able to juggle two businesses, again, he left one business, started a business, and he's starting another business. So again, dedication. For you to be dedicated to be in another country, to do a follow-up, reach out to me, have this podcast conversation. I got people, Tim, that's down the street from me that's been saying, I'm going to come by and see your place. It's been 4 years. They haven't been by yet. They haven't sat down and had a conversation with me for 5 minutes, not alone 1 hour. So I take my hat off to you, brother, for linking people together, for taking the time out of your day and to be able to give people that option, to be the vessel between different countries, different cities, different ideas, different mindsets. It's important for the world to have Tims in the world too. So again, you're doing a great job. I thank you, appreciate you. Again, in this process, we will still, conversate, stay in touch, make sure that way we can again start to rattle the cage a little bit and have people just to think, wait a minute, there is options out there for me. Wait a minute, there is a resource out there. Wait a minute, there's 2 guys that already did it. I'm going to ask them before I go and make 5 mistakes. You know what I mean? So again, if people just understand the basic concepts of conversation, of relationship, of art, of value, of empowerment, of business, of understanding other people, because everything has a human element. When I talk to the landlord for the building, when I talk to the city about the loan, when I talk to my artists or volunteers, when I talk to myself. So again, people tend to get into these conversations and they don't know how to have the conversations, including the conversation we have in our own head. We'll sit back and fight about an idea or even about a creative process in our own mind for hours, and we're thinking and not doing. So that's one thing I learned in this whole process, is to do more versus sitting back thinking for 3, 4, 5 hours. So I try to manage my time on both ends. So again, it's hard because again, we're creatures of habit. We tend to do things the same way all the time. So if everyone's going and displaying their work and the work's being devalued, you kind of follow along instead of pulling away and saying, is there another way? Can we do something different? Can we have a different conversation about this? So the same thing in all those other areas that I had covered. So again, Tim, I appreciate you. You're a great guy, man. Thank you.
No, I think one of the things, I'll be real with you here, my man, is just that I sit here and trust me, if you'd asked me 3 or 4 years ago, would I be sitting here building an internet on a new platform, talking to some guy no, I wouldn't have imagined any of this. I was quite happy just living on a beach in the middle of Venezuela and just enjoying the beach and life, man. I mean, but the thing is, what I'm trying to say is when you do step out, and this is one of the things like with I've always laughed and think, why is it us? Why is it, why is it us ragtaggy bunch of people? But in some ways, I think it's great because, and this is builds what you kind of do. It's okay if it's come down to someone like myself to do what I'm doing. If it's taking someone like yourself to do what you're doing, great. Okay, well that's just where we are, and that's what you were just speaking of. That's life. If you just open yourself up, sometimes, and you end up thinking, well, okay, I'm doing it. And I think what's really, I point my, I'm saying about networking, man. This is what 150, whatever, 60 odd podcasts. There's so many people, but one of the things I find is like, and I disclose, it's like trying to herd cats. Getting all the creative people to speak to each other is like, it's ridiculous, because we're all on the same mindset. We all agree. I've had this conversation over, and I think if we could just put us all together, the power we would have, we could just, honestly, I really do think this. We could have, I go back to hip hop. Hip hop changed the world. Not for one way, but it went from one place to bang. And why can't we do it again? We've got the greatest minds. We've got the minds that and do you know why I say we've got the greatest minds? Because our minds aren't stuck in this fixed mindset. The great thing about us creative people, in the ones that do and not just sit and talk around, we have this flexibility, like you were speaking about. We understand how they, almost like water, we have to move around environments, and we can't just be a fixed mindset, and we have to change our mindset. We have to change our minds on things, and we have to adapt to what our situations is. I mean, dude, yeah, how many bands would love to be, okay, I'll give you a studio in the Caribbean that's got all the things you want and a swimming pool, but no, but man, you make do with a drum, a drum kit in a back room, but they don't care. If you've got the passion inside you don't care. And that's what I'm saying. And we're at this moment, and we're, like you say, we're building platforms, and it's exactly what's driven me behind in 99, and it's driven me behind what you're doing. It's not for anything other than just to think, like I said before, I do it for the fact of, like, I want to use my tool myself. I'm sure it's like you do with Patterson Creations. You'd be like, that's what I want. Only things. It's almost it's intrinsically quite selfish. It's kind of like, I'd want this. Why haven't I got this now? Okay, nobody's building this. Okay, I'll do it. Why isn't there a gallery for me now? Okay, right. Okay, and it always falls down to. But that's the point. It's shaking that inertia to actually go, okay, instead of just being whining and complaining and looking around and going, oh, I wish this and I wish that, it's getting up and doing something. And this is where I think it's really important we all do fly each other's flag and point each other and projects inspired, because we're not going to get our lights on NBC and Fox News. We're not going to get our moments on this. But do you know the great thing is, as much as we're not on Fox and CNN and all that myriad of media, great, because that media is what the new world is. This thing, and this is going to be the conversations that kids are going to go back to, and they're going to go, wow. And do you know the great thing about this? Because there's no middlemen. We can have this conversation, and who knows who's going to listen to this, and who knows who's going to be inspired. And this is what I think is, to me, as I said before, man, I always say these are the greatest days to live in, because I have this conversation where I'm sitting here talking to a guy in Massachusetts who I've never met in person on a screen. To me, is, if we don't use these tools, I'm sure you concur with me, if to not use these tools, to me, does a disservice. And I've been quite real about it, so I'll get quite sort of serious about it. It does a disservice to all the countless thousands of human beings that have died through wars, Second World War, First World War, all the countless people that died to make sure we've got this freedom. And to me, that's why, just to sit back and go, oh, I'm going to sit back and watch X Factor, or I'm going to watch it. No, that's not making use of that great gift we've got, which is called life. And to me, I don't want to be dead and think and sit on my retirement day and thinking, what did I do in my life? I want to be going, okay, how many more days have I got to go? How can I squeeze as much energy and as much time out of this little precious time I've got on this rock? And that's to me, we need to inspire and point people out that do that, because, man, we're not going to hear this in the general overview of the media right now. And
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's important to take your hat off to the men and women that made it so that we can have this technology and have these conversations. So it can be a very, very, very different world right now. So, but people already made those sacrifices for us. And again, people need to understand that again, I can now go to City Hall and have a conversation about a loan. Some poor kid from Philly. I can now go and have a conversation with the landlord and talk about expanding the building. I can now go and have a conversation with you about doing a where we have a big screen TV and you have an audience here in Massachusetts and Attleboro with nice, comfortable wingback chairs, and we have the same conversation now, but instead of one-on-one, it's 1 to 20. You know what I mean? So again, we have some options and some things in place based on the foundation of other people. So again, it's a good thing, So in this process, to be able to cater to everyone, we also do other other things. So on Wednesday nights, we actually do meetings. We actually do AA and NA meetings. So if you have any type of addictions, we set the space up, take all the alcohol off the wall, and a church group comes in on Wednesdays, use the equipment we have here, the piano, guitars, and so forth, and they do their 12-step program. They've been here for 26 weeks already. So again, who would have ever thought that I could change the space for them, and that doesn't have anything to do with art. So what I did was, now it's the art form of rehabbing, of the art form of the 12 steps, the art form of celebration recovery is the name of the group. So again, to have a church reach out to us, again, they understand that it's a creative space that caters to the community and caters to others. It's a creative space that understands business. And what do you know, 26 weeks later, we have NAAA classes at Patterson Creation from 6 to 9 on Wednesdays. Thursday nights, we do open mic. People come out, different bands play. And again, it's a creative space. We have a lot of the equipment already here. So again, if someone really has the talent, but they don't have a guitar, we have a wall of guitars. If they don't have a drum set, we have a drum set. We have the PA, we have the mics. We have a lot of the equipment. On Friday nights, we do the art paint night, where people go out and paint and socialize and have drinks, and where you can learn an art class in 2 hours. Leave with an actual finished piece. Have fun music playing in the background. On Saturday nights, we do comedy nights. So people come out, have their, again, the art of comedy. So it's the art form of all of these things. And again, we're still open for people renting the space. So what I did was, when people rent the space for campaign kickoffs, for workshops, for birthday parties, I leave the artwork on the wall. So now these artists is not only getting their exposure at an art gallery show, they're getting their exposure. If the news is there taking a picture of a person that's running for office on my stage with the person's artwork behind them, now that artwork just made front page news because it's on the wall. So again, that's another way of thinking outside the box. So now you got a different crowd looking at the art every week on top of the art gallery shows and the other things that I've made. So again, thinking outside the box. How do I get artists in front of a different audience? When I rent the space out as an event venue, their art stays on the wall. So again, we gotta think outside the box, pay that time and attention to how do I keep up with the times, but again, without devaluing ourselves or devaluing the artwork. How do I build those relationships in a simple process?
Well, yeah. I mean, on that very that very point, and where can people, if they're listening, where can they, if they have, if they're inspired by this and thinking, do you know what, I want to reach out and I want to have an event, or maybe I'm an artist and I want to sort of showcase my stuff. Where can people reach out? Where can they contact you?
The easiest way is, to tell you the truth, I've used my own personal Facebook page more than a website, more than Yelp, more than Google. Just send me a friend request to Jermaine T. Patterson, and that's, I'm in Attleboro, Massachusetts. Of course, I have a website, pattersoncreation.com. Of course, I have the Yelp ad. Of course, I have Instagram, but it's just quick and easy just to friend request me on Facebook, and we can have those conversations, or just come down to a Patterson Creation and have a conversation. But I had a guy reach out to me recently from Thailand. He found me on Yelp. He trusted because he read the reviews. He sent the piece of art to me. I framed it for him and hand delivered it to his mother, 40 minutes away. You know what I mean? So again, like I said, it may not always be someone doing the friend request through Facebook or coming to the store. It may be like we're doing now, or maybe through a phone, or not all. That one there was 90% email. And again, to be able to have those conversations. So it was a little weird to be able to, not really have those conversations with them. So you have to be able to understand technology a little bit to be able to, do business. But to be able to reach out to me, just shoot me a friend request on Facebook, or if not, go on the website, or go on any of those other social medias. I'm on all of them. But Jermaine T. Patterson on Facebook.
Well, one of the things, and we'll obviously speak upon this much more in private, but I would love, at some point, and that's, it's not a case like the very theme of this conversation. It's not a case of just talking about. I'd love to get it done. I'd love to do an N99 conference. I'd love to. I mean, at some point, I'm gonna have to come over to the States anyway, and I'd love to sort of sit down and get some of these people and really have a like we're having now, but on a wider scale, and sit down with people and really say, look, these are the tools that are here. This is what's coming. This is the platforms that are going to be built. Because one of the things, before we wrap this podcast up, and I'm fascinated on what your thoughts are. Have you considered with the artists that you've got about, at the very beginning of this process that we're in, have you even thought about setting up digital crypto wallets, for Bitcoin and for other currencies? Because they're any means of getting people to be resourced. And I speak from somebody who kind of been down that rabbit hole and has got a lot of kind of sort of contacts in that world, and I'm always being asked like, oh, I love that person's artwork, but I can't buy it, and I love to buy it with Bitcoin. And so is that something you've actually considered, actually streaming with Pattersons and talking to the artists particularly?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, people, like I said, need to be able to recognize opportunities. So even in this conversation, Tim, if you brought that up, you just brought that into the universe. So we thought about it, we believe it, we spoke about it. Now we just had that actual connection. So now that's already out in the universe. So now that's an opportunity for us. So since we spoke about it, we can always figure out how to do it after the fact. So a lot of people hear about stuff, or like you said, just talk. But to be able to say that would be something great to do, to be able to again be able to connect all over the world with different currency, and be able to understand the currency exchange. Kind of like you was explaining with the if someone's written a studio over there for you know so many pounds, it equals so many dollars in America. And I mean, so it's the same thing, but the biggest thing now is we have two people that's already starting to get in line with that. So like minds attract other like minds. So that process is definitely in the works, where because we just started, we just started having a conversation about it. So, once the idea is out there, then we can always figure out how to make it work.
100%. I mean, 100%. And before, like I say, I want to wrap this up, but I have to sort of, and this is, I think it's a very element and a real conversation, part of what we're talking about. I think it's so, to me, and I can only speak from someone who's stuck up I'm here in the Highlands of Scotland, but when I look across the pond and I see yourself, I see what Josh is doing with both his, his t-shirt company and his removal company, and then, how he's inspired, people like, Black Kevin and what he's done with his comedy and the BKO movement. And you start to see what I'm trying to say is it's not blowing up smoke up your ass, man, because you're just a human being like me. But what the idea is that whole idea of when you do something, it's inertia, and things start to happen. And like you just spoken upon, and this is why I think beyond anything, and if anyone can take anything away from this conversation, I'll just hope they take away that it's just taking that first step, doing something, just step out in positivity, reach out, do something, because by doing that, it's like the inertia happens, and it's like nature itself. It starts to fractalize, and before you know it, you're sitting back and going, wow, like I'm saying, wow, look at this is snowball from one conversation, and before you know it, you've got a whole, network of people. And if we can just connect that network, I'm telling you, the power we have is immense, and it's just making us aware of the power we've got.
Definitely, again, like I said, I appreciate you, brother. You're a good guy. You're a great artist. Even your scene there is a good setup there. I like the piece there. The birds flying by. It's definitely a good little setup you have there. So again, it's all doable, man. It's all right here, right in front of us. Like you said, if you take that first step, the other steps will reveal themselves. Whether you take a leap of faith or whatever version of it you want to break it down to. But the biggest thing is at one point way back in the day, I thought maybe it's not possible, And as I started having the conversations, every conversation, it just keeps revealing itself. It is possible. Anything's possible that we want, whether it's technology, whether it's building relationships, whether it's understanding business of people, whether it's getting over fears, to understand fear and what it actually is, to be able to understand it so that way you can get over it and move forward. So if you have some type of fear, whether it's finances or health or whatever it is, to understand what it is, to so that way you don't miss your opportunities, because people miss out on their opportunities or miss out on building relationships based on something that they didn't even research. Like if you're scared of something, or again, like I said, some type of financial background, understand why you're in it, so that way you can work your way to get out of it, so you can be ready for those opportunities when it presents itself. So this is an opportunity right here for us, brother, to be able to have these conversations and work together, whether it's via online or whether it's me going out there to you or vice versa. But again, we have the technology here to be able to have some future podcasts with a bigger audience for you. So we'll definitely talk about that also in the future. So thank you for having me out.
No, perfect, man. And like I say, I just want to wrap this up, and it's been an absolute insightful conversation. And again, the door's always open for you. And I look forward to maybe I said this to Josh the other week. I would love to have a podcast with maybe you and Josh, maybe and have a kind of real where we sit down and bash our heads together and like you said, not just talk about stuff, because it's easy to sit around and talk about stuff, but come to some solutions. You know what I mean? I look forward to that day. Well, as I said, Jermaine, it's been an absolute insightful conversation. It's been an absolute pleasure. I was going to say, again, people can reach out to you. They can find you online. They know where they can reach out to you. It's been an absolute honour tonight to speak to you. And well, from over here in Scotland, I'm going to say, life is people, people.
Thank you. Bye.